Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to tie designs into and prototypes into the ongoing value flow. Uh, so, so my idea for that is that when you that first off, like for every product, there is uh, there is a design, one or more design resource types. You know, one of them might be the physical design, the other might be the process design, you know, or whatever you need. But basically, there is at any given time there is one current resource of that type. There is, you know, so you got here's the, you know, so there's here's the current design for that. Now, when you want to revise the design, uh, you start a design process, and the input to that process is the current design, and the output is the new design. So then the new design
Yeah.
is connected to the previous design. The previous design is connected to its predecessor. It's connected to its predecessor. And so you have this whole design chain of design resources that has all of the work inputs, you know, whatever else you use to do that. And the research prototypes and all the other research work can also be connected to those design processes. So they all become inputs to whatever is the current design resource. I recognize that is very sketchy. You know, what I what I think I would do is since we have now Danielle's spreadsheet, and you're going to do some documents about the histories of designs and prototypes and what you got out there, I will use those as examples to try to work out the software. In other words, this is not that different from the process and lab notes software that's out there now, but
Okay.
I want to do some special things for a design process where I automatically hook in the previous design.
But okay, so here I have an intervention because sometimes you take two or three designs, past designs, and you mix them together into a new one.
Sure, we
Uh,
can, yeah, they can all be inputs.
okay, that's it.
In
So
other words,
just
you can plug anything else you want as inputs to a new design process.
okay,
Ideas, you know, research work, whatever, the going into that new design process, but it would automatically take in the previous design. You know, so you
yes.
have this, so you'd have this chain of you know, this is the most current, you know, best design we got at this point. And I'm expecting that there are going to be problems with this, but I think it's another one of those cases where I could get something out there that is based on all of the inputs you know, that you're providing and Danielle is providing, uh,
Yeah.
uh, and then you know, I can actually put that information into the system, and we can see what it looks like as a value flow. Uh, that's what I think. That's one of the things that I would like to focus quite a lot on uh, uh, before we try to do a transition. And I think I can do that. I don't, that's not a lot different from what we already got out there in terms of software. So this is more working through some examples than it is lots of software changes.
Okay.
So so I think I can do this fairly quickly. Uh, um,
Okay.
so is there anything, is that good enough for that topic for now?
Yeah. Uh, yes. And I think So now what we call lab notes, it basically forks into different processes. So you can create an R&D process, you can create a design process, and you can
Yeah.
and will
Yeah. 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 The R&D process has some special features, and likewise the design process will have some special features.
okay.
And we may end up with some other processes that will have some special features. I don't know. I mean that sort of brings us to, okay. So let's see. Okay, uh, mechanics, designs, and prototypes. Oh, okay, I see.
I'm putting now the links to because there are only two prototypes of BAT, and there is
Yeah,
an XYZ piezo,
yeah, yeah, I see.
which these things are exist. XYZ.
Yeah, yeah,
These things already exist.
yeah. Question about the designs sheet. Um, what does the parent column mean? The parent design.
Well, I don't know. I just created these things.
Okay, okay,
So I
because it
thought,
might mean I thought it might mean what I'm talking about, the previous design.
yeah. So you see parent designs. So I put an S. Daniel used it in a different way, I think. Let's see. Uh, okay, no, okay, he did it well. So okay, yeah. So okay. So what in my mind, a prototype should have just one design. Okay, even if someone comes and looks at three different designs that somebody has made in the past for something, and he doesn't make another design, but he just makes a prototype from the idea that he gets. Okay, so the
Yeah,
design doesn't exist, but the design exists in his head. Okay, and somebody
hmm,
should probably put that down somewhere. Okay, so there is only one model and one design for an existing object, but then that model could be and design could be influenced by different ones, failures in the past, and somebody has made
yeah,
a design and he tried it out and it failed, and somebody has made another design and probably failed too, and they were too
yeah,
successful, but somebody finds some value, some features in the failed designs and mixes them with the new design,
yep,
and then it gets something else. Okay, so we want to capture that reality where ideas do influence each other, even failed ideas, influence each other.
sure,
So there's
yep,
going to be a
yep,
lot more designs than prototypes. Usually you have, just as an example, for the tape sensor, we generated like 4 or 5 designs. People were coming with
yep,
ideas. Francois was
yep,
saying, "Hey, why
sure,
don't we
great,
try this?"
yep,
And I was saying, "Why don't we try
yep,
that?"
yep,
And we only made 3 prototypes out of that. And one prototype didn't have design because it just happened one day in the lab, where Jonathan took a fiber and made it steep round using a fiber splicer, and then we say, hey, why don't we put that in the tape sensor and try it? So there is no design for that. I have to make it, but that was based on a previous design with a small improvement. Okay, because Jonathan figured out how to put a lens on a small optical fiber. So there's always more designs than prototypes. And as an R&D organization, mainly, this is where the fun happens, right? It's at the design
yeah,
and prototyping level.
sure, sure. Hey, been there. Okay, okay. This is good. I'll take all this in. This may affect what I do on this stuff, but I'll try to. Is that whole tape sensor process with all of its designs and prototypes, is that documented somewhere?
Yeah, I will make it for you today. I'm just
Yeah, good.
right after
Okay.
the meeting because I had it in my mind to do it.
Okay, good.
Also, Bob, I wanted to mention, and I sent an email. When I work on projects and use the lab notes, sometimes the inputs change. Okay, so I might use a piece of
Sure.
equipment today, or I might work on the mosquito project from Phil's lab or from CTS, or so. I think it would be nice to have these resources being customizable, with the option to keep the same. You know, some processes are quite stable. Like I was thinking about Francois doing his optical fiber coating. You know, he uses almost every time he uses almost the same equipment. What might change in his case is the amount of consumables that go into the optical fiber process. But it's quite stable. You know, he has his own table and his own tools, chemical stuff, and you know. But in some other cases, you know, things change so much. So I was thinking if we could have, you know, every time you log time, you also log resources that were brought up there. You know, that were entered as inputs. You know, microscope, a space, materials used, and so on. You see.
That's sort of the idea of the lab notes now. In other words, that that's why I wanted to have you log both the outputs and the inputs at the same time. Now,
yeah.
what I'm catching from what you're saying is that you would also like the inputs to be more customizable from the form. And I would say, okay, I want to have another input that I didn't have before. It wasn't with the process before. So that's one of the things that I want to add to the lab notes form, is to make it so that you can change the inputs on the fly more easily. You know, what inputs, you know, the input types, as well as the quantities. So you should, so that will be coming up. Now, I'm not sure that is that close to what you mean?
Yes, plus that every time you press the button to log the time, or to, you log resources too. You see what I'm saying? So resources are logged every time. And today I might use the microscope only 20 minutes, or the space only 20 minutes, and the other day, I might make a more intensive use of some resource. Okay, so it's also good to track. I was talking to Danielle about this and other people, and we think it's a good idea also to track how resources are used, to get an idea about their value. If somebody invests some money, in a piece of equipment, and you see that it's not used, it's probably not so valuable for the community. You see what I'm saying?
Well, now, okay, now, what is? I'm trying to understand here. I'm gonna. Oh, by the way, Francois is here. Hello, Francois.
Good morning.
Hi, Francois.
Okay. We'll catch you up on what we've discussed so far. Right now, we're talking about inputs. Logging the inputs on the lab notes, and so I'm going to share the lab notes interface that I'm working on now, which is a little bit more advanced, but it's also a work in process from my computer. And so I'm going to share that screen, and I want to because I want to make sure I'm understanding what Tibi is saying. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So let me.
We are recording this meeting, okay? So just want to let you know.
Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what's happening here is that I can log time by clicking the start button.
Yeah.
Okay. I can log how much I've used from certain materials. Oops, I can't do that because I only got 2 on hand. So, okay, so I'll stop with that. All right. And say I only use one of these. Those are being updated immediately. You can see that. Can you see that saved thing up on top?
Yes.
Okay. So I can also log how many of the outputs I created. At the same time. I can also get into the details of the outputs. Can you see that one?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. That's new, right?
So yeah, that's new. Okay. So now also the you can see that one minute clicked off on the time. Okay.
Yeah.
That's already been saved. All that stuff is, if I do something over here. Okay. That's automatically gets saved. There should have seen there was a little blurb there where it saved it.
Yeah.
So this is all like Google Documents. It's automatically, or Google or Gmail. It's automatically saving all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's the inputs, that's the outputs. That if you had some failed outputs, that's your notes, everything. The time, whatever. So what do you want to have different here?
Okay, so my question is, probably I don't understand how this works in the background. My question is, when we talk about material requirements, okay, all these inputs, are these associated with the whole process?
Yes.
Or are these logged every time, at every instance of the process?
These every time you make a change, they're logged, but they are associated with the process. They are all inputs to the process. They are not inputs to your time contribution. Your time contribution is also an input to the process.
I understand. Okay, sure. So now,
if somebody, and when you have somebody, yeah, okay, go ahead.
So let's say now we finished working with this on this R&D project, and we go back to it tomorrow, okay?
Yeah.
And I add an input because today I need to use another piece of equipment, so let's say a spectrum analyzer that I didn't need it yesterday, and I add it there as an input, as a material requirement, okay? And when I save it today, after I do the work, okay, it's gonna save that too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
With everything. So every time I open the lab book and work with it, okay, it's gonna log these material inputs for every instance. It's not that they're associated with it forever, and if I delete one, it deletes from the list associated with it, and there is a log of materials, right? As there is a log of time.
Yes. Material use. Yes. Okay. So here's our process for this stuff. Okay. And can you see the process? Am I still screen? Okay.
Yes.
So I just playing around with to see what if we had two different different things. You know what? I'm in the wrong pew here.
So then, if this is the way it works, Bob, like every time you log these resources, and they're not just there forever associated with the process, then there is nothing else to do. I mean, the feature is there.
Well, so here I got microscopes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we got 3 different microscopes. I'm just playing around. This is not real. This is data that I put. And so we got some other equipment that, okay, what happens with this stuff? And I'm not, unfortunately, I didn't get back to where I meant to be. This is going to be this is going to be a little bit confusing. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So you just want to edit the set.
Okay. So here we got different labs. So here we got somebody else doing work. All right. So here we got the lab notes. So here's somebody else's lab notes.
Oh, okay. So you can see that.
All right. Here's what they did. They failed some outputs, and all kinds of stuff. So it's
that might be Francois.
Yeah. So things happen. So okay. So all of this stuff builds up for the process. Okay. So if you add an input, okay, so good. Let me try this one.
How do you add an input? So you don't have a click button to add an input right away.
There is no. That's one of the things that I'm going to add, so that you can add an input here. The way that you have to do it. Yeah, the way that you have to do it now is a little bit cranky, and it's a little bit slow now because when I'm sharing my screen, everything slows down. Okay, so this is the one. Okay, so let's add another input to this.
Okay, so you go to the editing.
Change the process.
There you go.
Yeah. So we will. So we will add a grin lens, whatever that is.
Okay, and if you delete one, it doesn't delete the resources that were logged before, right?
If you delete a requirement, okay, it will delete the requirement from the process, but it will not delete previously logged events.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay, so here's our grin lens. Okay, so and I have like somebody else working on this. If I like here I use this tool for 2 hours. If I delete that from the process and say okay, I don't really need that, but I've already used some of it. The use that was logged still stays out there. It won't show up on the lab notes form anymore, but it'll be out there and it will be connected to the process. That's this. So the requirements are at the plan level, in those various levels. The value flows happen at the event level. So the use itself and your time contribution and all that kind of stuff, regardless of what happens at the plan level, if you already did that, that stays out there. All right. So that's persistent. So okay. So what I want to have here is I mean, the first way I will probably do it so that you can change the process is I'll just have something in here. I'll have a button up at the top and say change the process, and so you can just change the process then. One of the reasons that I want to do that is because this lab notes form is technically really complicated.
Okay.
And so I probably will do something simple to begin with, but eventually, yes, I would like to have something down here that, a button over here, so to add a material requirement, add a tool requirement, add a space requirement, add another work requirement, so and maybe but I've already got that processes, so I can just plug that in. Then you can change the process, and it won't, and it will just I'll have to decide which way is the easiest, but my goal in the end would be to have like little buttons off to the side to add more of those. All right.
Perfect.
Or maybe you're going to have a delete one too, I guess. But that's you may want to have more outputs, and there's a whole bunch of things here that want to happen to make this easier and more fluid, because I do understand that the research work is going to be very fluid. It's going to be very changeable, and but as far as what's happening right now is that the time contributions are automatically logged. When you do something, if I say I spent 2 hours, okay, bingo, it's logged right now. Now, one of the things about time logging is it is daily. And if I come tomorrow and if I come back now, okay, now let's say that let's close this. And
oh yeah, I remember. Okay, you added that.
Okay, and then I come back here again. Okay, so I'm good. This I actually had previously added a half an hour on this on another day. So this is the time spent today, and that'll come back here. Tomorrow, that 2 hours will go into the previous time. It'll be 2.5 hours previously, and then I'm starting over. So the time logging is every day. The use logging is not. The use logging builds up over time. Likewise, the output logging. So it maybe they should all be every day. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's very useful. Whereas the time logging, you specifically wanted to have that daily, and I understand why you would want to have that be daily. One thing about time logging is that people are, and you know who they are, and I'm sort of like that too. Sometimes is you're going to do a bunch of work, several days of work, and then you come in. Well, really, I want to log that work,
Yes.
and so you can actually add several days here, but it will all be logged on one day, and there's nothing I can do about that really that would make any sense.
Okay.
So if I do 40, if I do 5 days, here. It's all going to get logged on whatever day it was logged.
Okay.
So that's for your guys that do that kind of thing.
You would have to go in the database and manually change the date, right?
You can go into you can go into admin and you can manually change the date if you want to do that. But it's not, I don't know, it's probably not worth it, because really what you would have to do if you wanted to have that daily, you would have to have people log the specific dates for each of those 5 days. And I and I don't know if it's worth it. Everything that somebody has to enter, and do work on, you have to ask yourself,
Yes.
and the same as keeping the data, what is the benefit of doing that? What do we get out of it? It's not like you will never be perfect.
Yeah.
This is a model of your actual work, and models are never complete, and they're never totally accurate. They're just useful or not useful. That's the reality of models. And that's a law of the universe. There's this whole thing about, you can read up about the difference between the map and the territory. You know, that's
Yeah,
that's the philosophical discussion, is the map and the territory,
mhm.
and it's a law of the
But
universe.
when it comes to these problems, Bob, I think one way in doing it is to also have the possibility to log deliverables. So let's say Daniel
That's
doesn't
that's
log
the,
any time
that's
because
that's the outputs. That's the outputs.
yeah. So now let's say Daniel had made a list of designs, and
Yep.
one day he might come up with or somebody from EcoFab, okay, somebody from EcoFab that never logged time in Sensorica. Once he
Hmm.
comes to the lab and he says, I will give you my design. Okay, so can he log? So you see, to have something to log a resource, like we log materials. We
Hmm.
have a spreadsheet and we log
Yep.
material contributions and financial contributions, maybe
Yep.
like that for designs and prototypes, and
Yep.
so would
Yep.
be an economic event of logging a design, which becomes a resource in the system that can after be picked up by processes, right, and
Yep.
propagate
Yep.
from there.
Yep. We will want to have a much simpler form for logging resource contributions, which could be designs, which could, I mean, these are things that you already did. You don't want to log the process or the time or anything like that. You just want to say, okay, here's some materials, here's a design, here's something you can use.
Yeah.
That will be a much simpler form, and I also want to have a simpler form for people to come in, and they just want, this, all of this stuff is the idea of all of this stuff is that you're logging time inside a network of scheduled processes that all go together in a flow, so who's going to use this and where that's coming from and all that kind of stuff. And so then you don't have to specify. The process has already said you should use this kind of stuff. So a lot of that work is already done. And this is particularly useful as when you have things that have recipes. And you can use stuff that has recipes here, and it will blow through and generate the dependent demands. But there are times when what you want to do is you just want to log some work that you already did and it was not on the schedule, and I'm just trying to catch up here. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I want to have a simpler form for that, and I want to have a simpler form for so okay, so here's the inventory.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the inventory. So we got components, we got designs, we got equipment, we got prototypes, we got spaces.
Where did you get that, Bob? Where did you get that?
Lynn did that last week. It's out there on the system.
It's new.
Oh, inventory.
Yeah,
okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the inventory here is resources. So it's more, so design is in the inventory. Ideas will be in the inventory. So will spaces that you can use. They're all inventory. It's sort of like a wider view.
Inventories are resources, right?
Resources, yes.
Inventories. Okay, not resource types. They're resources.
Yeah.
Things that already exist, have been made. Okay.
Yes.
Could be at the customer's location if it's a product.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here there will also be a form to log resource contributions. So you can say, okay, I have a design and I want to log it as a resource that you can now use, and so it'll end up in there. So so there will be a log resource contribution here. So it's not just material contributions. It's like any kind of resource that is usable that you want to contribute to the cause, you know, and then it will be and then it will show up, you know, here. So here, these are the spaces, you know, we got these 3 different labs we could use, right? Which lab did you use for this process? Maybe you used more than one, you know, maybe you move back and forth for that research project, you know, different equipment, so all of that stuff ends up in inventory.
Okay.
And likewise, then resource contributions. There will be you know, this is where people will log resource contributions. Now, we may also want to say, you know, there's basically spaces where you're gonna you know, places where different logging different kinds of things belongs. But we may also want to just make a logging page with all of the options for logging whatever you want to log, you know, in case you just want to, you know, do something fast. I don't know. You know, but at any rate, to recap some of this stuff, so the lab notes, you know, I will make it so that you can add in requirements on the fly, okay, one way or another. Same way with outputs on the fly.
Okay. We also have another item in the. Yes.
Yes. What?
Okay. We also have another item, purchasing, but I would like to give the chance to Francois if he wants to add something or ask something before we go to purchasing.
No. Well, I can comment. Well, the system has to be used, and I was lazy this week to report my work, but I plan now to because I have to create some report on Google Docs too, and I will do in parallel reports in the lab notes. So for now, we'll have the two systems running in parallel, and I will be able to know more about the limitations of the lab note. I still have the feeling that it's difficult to have people log all their things on the lab notes, not because the lab note is not easy to handle, but because we started with a different system and we are used to Google Docs where the form is free, but we have to jump into the lab notes. But one day, and we'll have to decide when, we won't access anymore the Google Docs, so, or not the same way, so we'll have no choice to use the lab notes.
Well, one of the things that has been on my mind is that the new system is more as you mentioned, the spreadsheets are a lot more freeform. The new system is more constrained, but it is also necessarily more constrained.
Yes.
I mean, in other words, in your lab notes, because it's freeform, you actually would, if you wanted to have deliverables in your lab notes, you would have to go to a different spreadsheet to log the deliverables. If you wanted to log material usage in your spreadsheets, you would not only have to have a spreadsheet that for inventory, you would have to have another spreadsheet to log the material contributions. So, so your spreadsheets are simpler only because you're not logging everything. If you started logging everything, you would pretty soon find yourself with maybe about half a dozen more spreadsheets, and you would have to understand how they go together.
I am sure of that.
Yeah. So in the new system, yes, it is more constrained, but it's all on one form.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I'm sure it will be adopted as soon as we kill the the ancient version, which is the Google Doc.
Well, you might find out that people just don't like the new system. I mean, I hope they do, but they might not, and then you're going to have to decide what to do. I don't know. Now, one of the things that we talked about before you got here that I want to recap for you is we talked about having Lynn and me come and visit Montreal for the transition.
Wow.
And like for a week when and during that week, then we would want everybody to log all of their work in the new system.
Cool.
And we would be on hand to watch them and see where they get confused and have problems, and we'll fix bugs and make improvements, and and be just doing a whole lot of programming work on the fly while that's going on. And you would still at that point be running parallel. Now, one of the aspects of running parallel is that we may be able to figure out how to take the event logs. I mean, it is possible in the new system that all the events in the new system can be extracted into spreadsheets. So it might be possible to take the events from the new system and dump them into the old system for that transition week,
Okay.
But then at some point, yes, then you would cut over. But we're trying to work out all of the details of making a visit, and we'd have to discuss the timing on that, and I don't want to discuss the timing now because there's some dependencies on the timing. I would like to we went through a bunch of stuff about how to tie designs into the value flow, and I have a bunch of information from Tibi notes in the group chat here. Can you see that, Francois?
Yes, the chat.
Can you see the group chat from before you came in, or is it only the stuff that after you came in?
I think no, it's only after I came.
Okay. So we'll copy. Yeah, we'll copy that stuff out. But basically, I have a bunch of stuff to use for examples for how to tie designs into the value flow. So I'm going to work on that, and also work on the improvements to the lab notes.
Okay.
Those will be that's my highest priorities in the next few days here. And then we have to but then we do have to think, okay, what has to be done before we do that transition week? Before it would be worth coming up there.
Okay.
I sort of think, as far as purchasing goes, I did some stuff on the supply page. If you look at that, that is a setting up for purchasing, but it doesn't do anything yet. And I suspect that you're not actually ready to purchase through the system yet.
No.
Because I don't think you have enough information in there to do that.
But I would like to have the list of suppliers in there.
Yeah. You should have the list of suppliers. But okay. So let me see what I got here in my system.
Because for us, sometimes you buy something and you want to buy it again a few months later, and you scratch your head. Where did I buy this thing? So you just go in the inventory.
Yeah, we'll have a history. We'll have a history of all that stuff. So here's the supply page.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
So we've got at the top all the requirements organized, grouped by supplier. So if you would click the buy from here for Thor Labs, you would get a form. It doesn't work yet, okay?
Yeah.
But you would get like a purchase order form with all of those requirements.
Okay.
And then here's the open material here's the separate open material requirements, separate open tool requirements. Things that need to be purchased. So you can see like there's the basics here for if we had the information, this would be doable. The other things that I proposed adding to this are that we would have because I'm looking off at your spreadsheet on all this stuff. Have the ability for people to suggest things that should be purchased that are not requirements of scheduled processes.
Yes.
Because people do that. They say, okay, it would be nice for research work if we had this new type of microscope, and there's no process that requires it yet because we just thought of this. Yes, why don't we get one of these and then we can start using it and seeing how it works. The other thing that you have in your spreadsheet is a lot of comments. You have comments on stuff to be purchased. You have comments on suppliers, and you have suggestions of new suppliers and all kinds of stuff. So, so I want to have threaded comments in the purchasing area, which then could be could spread into other areas, and that would be like where you see Google Plus and you see the comments, except they would be threaded. You know what I mean? They would be threaded like they are in Gmail.
Okay.
Where you can say, okay, here somebody started this, and their replies to that comment would be under that comment then, which I think is useful.
Yeah.
And I've done this before. It's something I can plug in. I got a plug-in that I can use for that.
Is there any data that you need in the big? I'm going to take some time today, an hour or two, to put in some new materials and their new resources, like the bath and some equipment that we have. And is there any data that you want in the system in order to test different functions that you're working on?
No, for this next stuff, there really isn't. What I want is I want you to document that tape sensor process research project where you had several designs and then the prototype with no design and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to work off these other spreadsheets because I want that's the stuff I will enter that into my test system, and then maybe put it all into the real database as test, as stuff to look at that you guys can look at too. As how to tie the designs in. But no, there's nothing else that I need. When we get to when we want to implement purchasing, when I want to actually start working on the software for the purchasing, then there will be a bunch of data requirements, but I'm not ready to do that. I'm going to work on the lab notes. I have all the data I need for that, and then I'll do the examples. I'll enter my own examples from your data in the spreadsheets and documents for the design the design value flow because I'm going to be creating a new form for design processes. You know, you know, and so I will be creating test data for that, and then I can put that out there. Okay?
Okay. For me.
So that's mostly what I need, and I think I know what to do next. Are there other things that we should discuss today?
I think it's fine for me for the technical stuff. It's only you if you're curious about the process at UCAM with Sumaya and her students. But other than that, I'm fine.
I didn't understand. There was an implied question there, and I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's only for you if you want to, if you have questions about the new presentations we make at UCAM, and you know, we talk a lot about the infrastructure, and I did a demo. So if you're curious, I can mention something about it. But if not, we can even chat or email.
Yeah, tell a short story. That would be interesting.
Okay. So this was
I think I understood the presentation well enough, actually. You know, but
even if it was in French, yeah.
Yeah. So it would be more like you know, tell me about what happened and how it went and the responses.
Yeah. So on top of the presentation, I also did a demo, live demo. I went to what you have on the screen now, and you know, walked them through different processes, how we you know, recipes, how we log time and contributions, and how we document stuff, and how we calculate, you know, the value equation, little demo there. So the first part was just a broad presentation of the context and of Sensorica and the value network model based on the presentation. Was a lot of interaction. You know, people were asking all kinds of questions. Mostly around, you know, how we account for everyone's contribution, and how we, you know, calculate equity and so on. And a lot of it also based on the business model, so to speak. Basically, they wanted to know how Sensorica can survive just by, you know, commercializing open innovation. And what is the sort of a model behind that? Okay, so this is the two main reactions that we had. I also made them understand where Sensorica is at this point in time. You know, we demonstrated that we can design products with a goal that goes towards the market. So, you know, many open communities are very dispersed in their you know, interests and goals, and they end up making a lot of stuff, you know, but most of it is sort of useless for the population. And what I told them is that Sensorica succeeded as an you know, as a, let's say, decentralized entity to design with the market in mind, and not you know, waste a lot of energy and resources in doing that. But we didn't, you know, succeed in selling products, and yet, I mean, you know, we are on the verge of bringing our products to the market now, and this is about the time where we make that addition to the network, you know, to become also a commercial entity. So that was it, and there was a lot of discussions after about how we should go about this, and should Sensorica just stay, because they were there to give us advice. Students, for them, this was an exercise, hearing the Sensorica case and then advice. There was a lot of positive reactions on the, I mean, reactions were that people were amazed to see this infrastructure that we're building, you know, that integrates from supply chains to CRM and everything in between. They understood the potential, and every time I would show something, you know, I would tell them, you know, this is just a simple interface. Now imagine this, imagine that, lab notes, imagine something that is, you know, multimedia, so you can add pictures, videos, voice, and on top of the text, you know. And so I was also, I was showing the thing, but also transporting them into the future, telling them about the vision where this is going. And I think so. These were MBA students, right? So they knew about ERPs and CRMs, and they were engineers, doctors, artists. Mixed about 20 students
Cool.
in this MBA class, and it is a class of ecosystem. So Sumayashi, she's designed this course on ecosystem, and she's trying to make students see business as part of ecosystem. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of reaction. I mean, everybody was amazed with this thing, and and we spoke about how this infrastructure can become an attractor in itself for value networks to grow, because it makes stuff so easy for individuals. So it's a straightforward value proposition for the individual. You have a tool to share resources, to collaborate, access to a list of suppliers that is rated by your peers already and commented and so on. So you don't have to go through that again. Access to market, so they were really, really amazed, these students.
All right, good.
Yeah, very good, and good recruitment tool too.
Yeah, so we'll we'll have another one Saturday, this coming Saturday, and Francois is also invited to.
Yes, I'll go.
Maybe we'll change a little bit of presentation to adapt it to this new audience. Most of them will be lawyers, so we'll talk more about IP. Maybe we'll touch some stuff about Creative Commons, about the infrastructure and so on. That's
You might ask them. There was in that. That Mike guy that we had this little interaction with on the TechCrunch story. There's a bunch of questions, and Better Means had a bunch of these questions too, as far as what are the legal and tax implications of dynamic equity and as what we're doing, and also the flow through income distribution. I mean, it's not that different, I don't think, from what in the United States we call an LLC or a limited liability company. I think,
yes,
and I think Kurt has already made that comparison as well.
Yeah.
But that would be at some point. At some point, that it would be interesting to have a conversation with a friendly lawyer, who would just do like sort of like a freebie, donate, contribute some. At least enough time for one conversation, to say, okay, somebody, but it would have to be a lawyer that gets it, that understands what people are trying to do, because otherwise you're going to have people and they're going to, and they're going to shove you in their usual slot, and
yes, completely right. Usually they don't understand what it's about.
Yeah, they want to. Yeah, but it would be it's some. You might want to keep your eye open in these things for if there is a lawyer in some, or a student lawyer or whatever that you think actually starts to get it. That would be interesting.
So this case is really interesting because Sumayashi is giving actually this course on ecosystems, and she's trying to make these students change the way they see, economics and business. So they get it, and these students are MBA students, and these lawyers are practicing lawyers.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
So they're not just students. I mean, these are people. The average age was like 35 inside the room.
Ah, okay, cool.
Okay, going from maybe 50 to I don't know, to 20 something. Okay.
Yeah.
So and these were people working for like the class I had last time. These were people working for the national TV station, CBC, which is the equivalent of BBC. We had students working for Bombardier, which is the
Aircraft.
aircraft manufacturer. You know, a lot of Fisher. So a lot of companies. These are engineers, salespeople. You know, with jobs actually just taking these doing this MBA on top of their trade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And they get it because they're in the context. You know, they're there to learn about ecosystems, right? So it's the perfect thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions on my mind with this kind of stuff, you know, and these are the questions on Better Means mind too before they imploded. What is happening with the contributions that are continuously eligible for, you know, that continue to be eligible for income distributions? Is, I think that from a legal standpoint, they are sort of the equivalent of equity.
Yes.
And were Sensorica an actual limited liability company, they would go into each member's capital account. And so you know, there are to some extent, you know, and yet Sensorica is not a legal entity.
No, it's not.
Yeah, so there's really interesting questions here from, I mean, I would see a lawyer going nuts with all this stuff and try to figure out, oh, what's going on? I can't pin it down, whatever. And then, because the problem with talking to lawyers always is that lawyers live on the lawyers' view of the world is billable time. You know, so lawyers do not want to talk to you without the billable time. How much billable time do I get out of this? You know, so, but you know, maybe maybe these guys, they're going to a class, you know, so in the class they can talk anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, anyway, one of the things I think that is significant here, if you actually get into the legalities of the stuff, and I don't know how it is in Canada, but one of the things in the United States, it makes quite a lot of difference what you call things, you know, you know, right. So, you know, so, okay, it's okay if we call it equity and capital account. It's bad if we call it shares, because then we get involved in the whatever the stock exchange laws, you know, and so you know, but or if we call it funny money, or whatever is if we call it our internal currency, you know, credits or obols or whatever, you know, then you know, so eventually we may get into that thing of, okay, what do we call this, such as so that we stay out of trouble.
Yeah, so the presentation will be very important, the introduction next week.
Yeah, very interesting. All right. So if you do revise the presentation, ping me, and then that would be the point where maybe I'll, because I keep trying to get my daughter to plug into something that's in French, you know, to see what she makes of it, and her husband, and she's got a lot of various kinds of business experience, and I think she would have, it would be interesting to her, and she would have an interesting take on this stuff.
I think there is the other presentation in French too that I still have to put it on online from my colleague here. Yeah.
But it was really it was fairly clear. I thought it was fairly clear without having to without understanding all the French. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised that this is in a Google spreadsheet. I was a little surprised that they couldn't kick their translation software in there.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's all right. Doesn't matter. It was clear anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so anything else we should touch on today?
Not for me. I will play with the system much more this week, I hope, than last week.
Okay, be aware that I'm going to be working on lab notes, so if there's anything that hits you while you're doing that, oh, gee, it was so nice if we'd had this or that, or if it didn't do that or what, yell at me, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.